Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this rebroadcast or this replay. I am Dr. Lene Javette, the brilliant business architect, your host and facilitator of today's conversation. Today, we're continuing our critical discussion on workplace stress and PTSD among Black women. Yesterday, we explored the rising PTSD rates linked to workplace stress in our part one episode. Today, in part two, we're shifting our focus to a different aspect of workplace dynamics. We often discuss how other cultures oppress Black people through microaggressions, prejudices, and biases. However, today's conversation is about a different challenge. What happens when the gatekeepers causing harm look like you, when they share the same race as you? But before we dive in, let me introduce you to our powerful queens that are joining me today. We have Athena Gardner. She is a CPA. You can find her at wewealthwomen.com, as well as Jade Harrell, highblackesteem.com. Welcome to our platform today, ladies. Neither one of you guys were here with us yesterday. It was so impactful. We were talking about sister. Can you put her name up there for me? Because it's not in my notes. Sister, they call her Bonnie, but her name is, can we get that slide of the young lady we were talking about yesterday? She was the president at Lincoln University, which is an HBCU. There we go. Thank you. Oh, her name's not up there, but she endured cruelty, which led to her unaliving herself. Thank you, Dr. Candia Bailey. And so at that university, it was the first time that they had had a white president in 150 years. And she had been complaining about intentional harassment and just some different things that was happening to her there in that workplace. And that brought us to the conversation on PTSD, which was an amazing conversation. If you didn't hear yesterday's conversation or you didn't get to see yesterday's broadcast, please go back and rewatch it. If you don't catch it on YouTube, go check us out on Spotify, okay? But it left us with more questions. As we were closing out our conversation yesterday, there were 3 or 4 questions that were left in the chat that we felt still needed to be addressed. So if we can get those slides, I want to so one of them said, unfortunately, my worst experience was working under a Black woman. I definitely had to quit that job. That was one of the comments from yesterday. Another one read, appreciate all this self-advocate, but what do you do when the gatekeepers causing harm look like you, the same race as you? Another comment said, I work in the medical field as well. A lot of women are not secure in who they are. Everyone is in competition, but why? All of our jobs are important. Is there one more? There was one about nursing. There it is. There's a lot of bullying in nursing where women are in charge. Why is this oppression of women by other women? All right. So let's get into today's conversation. If you are in the chat, let us know. Have you experienced PTSD at the hands of someone that looks like you in the workplace? We will start out with you, Jade. What are your thoughts on this whole, on let's say, Black on Black PTSD in the workplace?
I have worked in predominantly Black environments, and I would say that one environment in particular, the morale was low. So in general, staff morale was just really, really low. And I think that had an impact in terms of like how people treated each other. But what I will say is, I mean, I don't know. Like it's not my experience. Like most times when I work in predominantly Black environments where I see other Black people, especially Black women, I go out of my way to build relationships with them, to break the ice. I want to work at, getting to know who they are, getting to know what their interests are, how we can work with each other and support each other. And so I haven't had many experiences where I've seen other Black women in the workplace that were not also interested in building that relationship. So, I mean, I have seen toxic environments play out, but generally this has not been my personal experience.
Okay, so you bring up a good point. I am coming to you, Athena. So are you it's almost as if you're saying that this doesn't happen in Black working environments. Mm-hmm. So because Black people work in, corporate America and Black environments that are mostly Black people. So
Mhm.
it sounds like you're saying that you don't see this in Black-owned businesses, Black-owned companies where there's mostly Black employees.
Yes, I mean, I experienced morale being low and just in general in that particular work environment. Now, I have worked in really, really, really high or elitist white organizations where there were very, very few Black folks. And I think I've only experienced one other Black woman that was super duper competitive or, sort of fell into the same typography as the comments that were made yesterday. That was just one individual, but for the most part, even in those predominantly white environments, when I encountered other Black men and women, we were experiencing the same level of oppression, and we built a camaraderie and we supported each other really well. So that's just been my typical experience.
Okay. What about you, Athena?
Well, I wish I could say the same as Jade, but that has not been my experience. What I will say is I do not think it's unique to just Black women. I think it's a woman thing. I'll go into that a little further. But I did, starting my beginning of my career, out of grad school, starting working at one of the top accounting firms in Atlanta, I was not in a predominantly Black environment. So there might be a factor, Jade, because when it's less of you, I think it increases competition amongst you to be the token or the best or whatever that sometimes we have, unfortunately. And my superior was a Black woman, Black, natural hair, African ancestry, like name hard to pronounce type situation. And what the experience, and she was the one who actually hired me, gave me my offer letter when I interned and all of that. My experience now, I probably signed an NDA, so I can't name firm or specifics or anything like that. But I was a staff. I was fresh out of college, entry level. She was in a position she was going to make partner or trying to make a play for a partner in the firm. So she was gone a lot, and it was me and another senior working on audit engagements at the time. Our audit engagement was not going very well. But throughout the whole process, she was like, oh, befriending me. Oh, yeah, we both have natural hair. Sister girl thing, right? When it came time to take accountability for whatever was going to happen, she digged a hatchet in my back. Like, she basically sacrificed me so she could, like, get her promotion or whatever. And at first I thought, okay, maybe it's me, but I was in a toxic work environment. It was predominantly white. People were questioning my value, even though my resume and my skill set outperformed my peers now. Even when I went to school, all my experience outperformed my peers. So that is also another layer. But how I knew she did it was I actually was on an engagement with just men. And one of my male mentors, he left the company. I didn't know why, but he was at the same level as her. After the fact, after I quit, moved, that whole situation, and she like made me like quit my company because I can't stay in toxic environments. I'm just not going to do that. And I'm not going to stay in places where I'm not valued. And I'm not going to stay in places where I'm disrespected. That's just my personality type. I'll peace out really quick. So he told me basically that they had conference calls where as senior managers, where she has said things like she doesn't want another Black person on her team. She has said, yes, she had said all kind of, I want to be the only Black token and I don't want other Black people on my team and things like that. So it further confirmed to me that, okay, this woman just was not, she was not supportive as she was coming off. She was actually very competing with me. Now, I thought that would be one situation, but throughout my career working under women, white women, I have suffered microaggressions. Just women in general, I don't know what it has been, but it seems like not all women, right? But it seems like, especially with upper management and in the accounting and finance field, there's less of us there. So you want to do a good job. So instead of creating.
Wait. So we're going to actually get to the women conversation. We're going to get to the women conversation. So I want to back up a little bit, because there's an analogy that we've all heard in our lifetime, which is crabs in a barrel, right? And so that leads me to, I personally don't like to use that terminology. I identify it and I know what it means, but I don't like to liken us to crabs. And I definitely don't want to make it seem like we're not supporting each other and we're tearing each other down. So what I will say is, and/or the question I will impose is it that there's not enough of us in particular environments and workplaces? Is it that there's not enough of us at the table and we're still having the conversation about Black people and/or Black women to other Black people? What do you think, Jade? And/or before I ask Jade, what do you guys think in the comments? Do you, in your work environment, are you the only Black person? Are there other Black people in your environment? Do you feel as if there's not enough Black people and that is why you may or may not be being treated the way that you're being treated in your workplace? Go ahead, Jade.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to say that I have not worked a 9-to-5 since 2016. So thanks to the work that I did in the Black Business School, the things that I learned, like I left and emancipated myself from the 9-to-5 world back in 2016, and I went into sort of, consulting, contracting, and working for myself. And at that time in 2016, I believe I was about 33 or 34 years old when I left the 9-to-5 world. And so now I go into schools and other organizations where there are a lot of Black folks in predominantly white environments, and some of them may experience that some of the same dynamics that Athena has expressed, but I wonder how much of that is also cultural. And when I say cultural, like, yes, we are melanated folks working in places whether we are intentionally or unintentionally, being tokenized, but in my experience, a lot of Black Americans like myself who do not come from immigrant families tend to have a lot more camaraderie and have a us versus them mentality when it comes to the dominant power structure in general. And we tend to kind of stick together. It has been my experience where, like, I think Athena pointed out that, her superior in that particular situation definitely was from the continent. A lot of the competition, the anti-Black rhetoric, and, things impact our communities intraracially or interculturally in many different ways. And so there could be more of a revolutionary mindset or more of a mindset of being very community oriented and wanting to build those bridges in certain aspects of our cultures. And then in other aspects, it's kind of like being a token is a crown jewel, or being tokenized as a crown jewel, and creating competition and seeing that the white man's ice is colder could be more prevalent in certain cultures because colonization, imperialism, and racism and white supremacy is taught and understood differently. So I wanted to point out those dynamics as an anti-racism trainer. And that's something that I definitely do see, even when it comes to the Latinx community, with colorism and all of the things that we also have. We just all interact with this oppression very, very differently, depending on where we come from.
Thank you for that. So if you're just joining us, today we're talking about why Black women hurt each other in the workplace. This conversation came out of our part 1 yesterday. We were talking about PTSD in the workplace, and it left us with some more questions that we wanted to have a conversation about today. If you are just tuning in, you can catch us every Monday through Friday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern. If you would like to get notified, you can text the word Queens to 87948. Again, that's 87948. And that way you can be notified whenever we are live. And or if you don't catch us live, you can catch us on Spotify. If you go to Spotify, you would search for Fly Nubian Money, and you can find us there. Athena, you said accounting and finance is your background, your industry. Are there a lot of Black people in that industry? Or are you one of a few people in that industry? I have a second follow-up question I want to ask you as well.
I think in accounting and finance, you will find adequate enough Black people, but it's less. I would say we're definitely not the majority in any way. Specifically CPAs. So this is a stat from 2018. So I don't know the updated numbers, but less than 2% of CPAs are Black.
Okay. So then in your industry specifically, do you think that it is more of a Black thing or a woman thing? So some of the things that you're experiencing in the workplace, is it that you are a minority in this industry, because sometimes that does happen across industries, or is it the woman thing where it's just a woman that sees another woman and might feel some type of animosity towards that woman?
To be honest with you, I would say majority would be a woman thing, because I've had these issues with white women too. So I think it's a woman thing. However, in that particular situation, it was definitely a Black thing, because my mentor came back and told me things she said specifically about not wanting Black people on her team. So,
yeah. And the woman herself was Black.
Yes.
Okay. Black. So then I'm gonna take this question, and I might ask both of you guys. So let me take this question to y'all, to Jade. This is probably going to be a really interesting conversation right here. Do we stereotype ourselves? So as a Black person, seeing other Black people come into our job, are we then stereotyping how they will work, what their work ethic will be like, how they're going to show up before they even get the opportunity to prove themselves? Jade.
I say yes, absolutely. And that's why I make it a point to go out of my way to try my best to get to know people and build relationships with other Black people, so that I am not leaning into my own biases about what someone else's work ethic or competency and things may be. I mean, I'm very, very type A. I like to do things in a particular manner. And so I have to consistently check myself and make sure that I am being fair and reasonable in my assessments of other people, and I'm not judging folks. But I definitely do know that particularly I have the natural propensity to size people. I'll be like, oh, they're lazy, they're this, that, and that. And then I have to like, okay, Jade, calm down. You're not the smartest person in the room all the time. So yes, 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 and yes. And I think the sooner we realize that about ourselves and we take ownership of it, the better off we'll be. And preventing some of these toxic dynamics that we also perpetuate and that we see and we witness and we observe, and we get to take responsibility and accountability to say, hey, where am I playing a role in this equation? If I see such and such walk in the door, head to toe, decked out, looking really, really nice, am I, being jealous of this person, or am I making unfair assessments of this person? If a person comes to a meeting 5 minutes late, am I, being unreasonably harsh or whatever, criticizing them? We all tend to do these things, but when we take ownership of our own part, we get to stop projecting as much as we do. That's what I think. Oh, you're muted, Dr. Lene.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was muted. Now I'm unmuted. Dr. Athena, I'm going to throw that question to you as well.
What was the question again?
Do you feel that we stereotype our own when they come into the workplace?
Yes, I think we stereotype our own. And I also think that we place higher expectations of our own, because we think that if they do not perform well, it's going to reflect poorly on all of us. So I would agree with that statement.
So then the next question is, does it? When one Black person does wrong or bad or falls off in the office, does it affect all of us? Does it affect everybody else that's in there? You say yes? Yes. It does.
Yes.
To us, or to the executive, to the people that are working there? I think, because sometimes I think it's us more. Like, I think we personally take on the behaviors and the work ethics of other people as if how they work makes us look bad. So I think it's more of us taking it on than the people that actually work there. What do you think?
No, I think it's both. I think because now I've been putting on a suit. I've been making sure I've done everything A to Z, and this person's going to come and mess it up for all of us, because we already know we are working against certain stereotypes that are negative. Now, if I had a stereotype that I was Asian and I meant I'm smart and I'm good with money and that, you know, I'm probably going to stay married forever, those are positive stereotypes that work in my favor. But unfortunately, as Black people in America, we do not have a lot of positive stereotypes. Our stereotypes is that we like to play, drink, have fun, and all kind of negativity, right? So when one of us does not perform at least to a base standard level, unfortunately, it reflects poorly on all of us within the group and what others are looking at us as. And that also plays out in greater society, because if Sexy Red goes and does something crazy, it's like, oh, all these Black women just love to twerk. So we don't escape that.
So we basically taking our PTSD into the workplace with us.
Correct.
We don't stand a chance. I like what Pretty Fit Niaja said. She said, personally, I will go out of my way to help another Black person in the workplace, especially if they are performing below level. I think that that's kind of how I operate too. Like Jade, I haven't been in the workforce in like 10 years, but I have always had really, for the most part, great experiences. But let me temper that with, normally I am, if not the only Black person, one of two, maybe three Black people, maybe a group of minorities. The bulk of my major career growths have been at the hands of women. My first one was at an architectural firm. It was a Hispanic lady who brought me into the company. I have no experience as administrative assistant. She gave me one of the hardest executives, and then coached me on how to help him. He was a Hispanic dude he was the first one in his family to become an architect. And so he was very protective of the work that he did. And she showed me and taught me how to get in there and to take control of it. And I did it. And he gave me like a 20% raise in like 3 months, and then turned around and gave me a promotion in 2 years. I had like a $7 increase. And at that time, I'm like, I don't even think I'm 30 yet. And so that was a Hispanic woman that took me under her wing and showed me. And then when I left, and then I went from administrative assistant to executive assistant, which brought me back home to Phoenix. I got a different job as a marketing assistant, white lady. And she's like, I see something special in you. I want you to go and have me never finish your degree. And so she sent me to get my bachelor's degree, and the company paid for it. And then I got my master's degree, my MBA, and then I got promoted to executive assistant. And that was the very last job that I worked at until I became an entrepreneur. $1 billion aerospace company, which leads me to the microaggressions that I talked about yesterday. Being the Black face of a $1 billion aerospace company, where it's the CEO, the president, and then me. I'm sitting at tables with nothing but white men, the vice presidents of technology, the VP of R&D, the VP of this. And I'm having to say, this is what we need. This is what we have to do, this, that, and other. With the women, it was promote, promote, promote. With the men, it was, little Black girl, I know you're not sitting up here trying to tell us what to do. Do you know what we make? Do you know who we are? Do you know what we do? I'm having to repeat myself. I'm doing all the things. I'm wearing glasses so that I can look smart. I'm trying to make sure that I have all the right words. I'm doing all of the things to appease and tap dance to be taken seriously. Have you ever had to do anything to prove your worth in the workplace due to your race, Jade? And then I'm going to ask you the same question, Athena.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely in the earlier stages of, just kind of getting into a new job, definitely on the interview, and then once getting the job, saying, hey, I got more credentials than the rest of y'all. So therefore, and then I was also very, very vocal about not playing, because what we're talking about here, ladies, is stereotype threat. Walking into a space and saying, hey, these are all the cards stacked up against me because these are all the stereotypes that come along with being Black, being a Black woman, and all of these things. Education level, what city or state you come from. There's so many stereotypes that come with all of those things. And yes, being able to say, you know what, I know what the odds are. I know how people view me. And now I have to go out of my way to justify why I'm here. But once I established that with the receipts and my track record and working really, really hard, yeah, I just became less and less interested in playing that game. But yeah, I definitely had to sort of justify, like, hey, yes, I am young, but I also have a certification and a master's and all these other credentials and postgraduate work that y'all don't have. And I also have experience and cultural experience, and I know the demographic of these children, of this neighborhood, of this city, and therefore that makes me more qualified than you, Becky, that came from Idaho and has never worked with Black kids ever in an inner city. So just sort of, I think a level of arrogance, I had to adapt and just say, hey, like, I'm going to go out of my way to remind you as to why I'm overqualified for this position and have more qualifications than you. So yes, to that point, but then also I took a different approach, and my approach was to be very, very aggressive in terms of letting people know who I was and why I was there and why I deserved to be there and why we deserved to be there and why the families and the children that we serve were deserving of so much more. And I also took pleasure in pointing out ways in which Black, white, Latinx, and other staff members were holding the community and the students to very, very low standards, and really calling that out in real time.
Gotcha. Athena?
So I basically, especially in the beginning of my career, I've had all kind of training. I've had etiquette training before I even stepped foot in a corporate office. I went to a very top school. You know, I can run that whole thing down, but I don't want people searching me on the internet, right? So I used to, in the beginning, when I first started my career, I didn't feel like that was important for me to vocalize that, right? I didn't feel like that was important. And today I don't feel like I do that. But during the course, in the middle of my career, I realized I had to do that because it's part of the politics, the workplace politics. I really don't have the desire or even the wiring to engage in corporate politics. So I think that's why I got bit so early in the beginning with that situation. But I'm glad it happened because it kind of taught me how to swim with sharks. And I am in accounting and finance. Accounting and finance is white male at the top and everybody else scrambling on top. And I used to feel like I had to demonstrate a level of competency, right? And that was just something that I had to do. But having actually worked in the industry and seeing the behind the scenes, especially with men, especially with white men, and how they move about within corporate structure, I realized I can relax because a lot of these men aren't that competent anyway. They're projecting a good image. They have most of the people underneath them doing the actual work. So why do I feel like me to have to go out my way to prove my worth when I'm actually the ones coming up with creative ideas and solutions? So even to this day, as I meet people and engage with others, I don't feel like I have to go out my way to list the whatever would be, you know, what I call intellectual elitism, like the degrees and where I went to school and all this other stuff. My conversation, the depth of my critical thinking skills will shine through on its own. And I think that's what, my personality, I think that's what should be the value. All the other things, unless you're hiring me for a job or I'm doing a speaking engagement or something of significance, you don't really need to know.
I love that. I was looking for a comment that I saw that I thought was funny, and I wanted to share it, but it has gone all the way. It's gone. And there it is. It's from Armando Walls. He says, I just encourage my non-Black coworkers to act out and cut up. Then I conduct myself in the opposite manner. I always appear on my toes and head on a swivel, on point. Hilarious. This is Fly Nubian.
That is so petty, first of all. Can we
But you know, I have a story about that.
So wait.
Right, let me just reset real quick. Let me reset real quick. This is Fly Nubian Money. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern. Text the word Queens to 87948 if you would like to get a notification when we are live. Okay, go ahead.
So basically, are you the Black guy or Black person at work that tries to appear to be better than the rest of the ratchet and downtrodden Negroes? If so, in my experience, I said it's petty, but it's also problematic. It's problematic. So, you know, I'm gonna set you up to appear to be ratchet and appear to be the stereotype, so then I can come in and be the token.
Now he said non-Black though. He said non-Black.
He said non-Black.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you for clearing that up because I misread that. I was like, whoa.
No.
Okay, well, that's funny. Also petty, but also be careful doing that. Be careful.
Yes.
Be very careful in those environments doing that, because if somebody, if it gets back to management that you're encouraging the ratchet behavior, they're going to be looking at your leadership skills and your judgment. But they can get away with stuff that we can't. So hey, who am I to judge it?
Yes. Okay. So today, again, I gotta reset the room again. So why Black women hurt each other in the workplace. If you were not with us yesterday, this conversation started when we were going over the president of Lincoln University who unalived herself. And it got us talking about PTSD rates among Black women linked to the workplace. Do we have the slide with the numbers? Because this is a legit situation. This is really happening. Black women in the workplace experience PTSD at 21.5%. Hispanic and Latina women experience it at 17.2%, and white women experience it at only 12.4%, which is almost at half of what we experience it at. Some PTSD causes include exposure to traumatic events or threats of violence, lack of organizational support or poor management practices, excessive workload and long hours, bullying, racism, and sexual harassment isn't on there, but that we could add that on there. So that's the conversation that we're having. This is Fly Nubian Money. I am joined today by Jade Harrell as well as Athena Gardner. And again, if you do not catch us live Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock, you can always go to Spotify and listen to the broadcast or re-listen to the broadcast. You can share it with friends and family who you think can benefit from this conversation or who might be experiencing some of these things, who need help and or solutions. So let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about solutions. What can we do? Because we have to work, we have to generate money, we have to have jobs. So if we go into a working environment where there is stress or trauma, and it's somebody that looks like us that's causing it, what can we do? Is it pulling the person to the side and asking them and saying, yo, what's up? Maybe not like that, but like, you got a problem with me? Maybe, and again, maybe not like that. It could be saying, hey, can you give me the law of the land? Are we bowing down to the Black that was there first? Like, how do you reduce the stress and trauma amongst Black people in the work environment? Okay, you have a book that we'll start with you, Athena.
All right. So 48 Laws of Power. Now, I read this book like, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. This book, it can be applied to all life situations, whether you're on a corporate plantation or even with your own family at home. However, I think this is mandatory reading to help you sharpen your mind for the corporate plantation and the enemies that will surround you that look like you and that who do not look like you. Okay. 48 Laws of Power. We need to have a mindset and realize that when we're going into work spaces, that you're really as valuable as you're useful there, and that other people, you will have a target on your back if you're not doing well, and you will have a target on your back if you're doing great, right? So you kind of have to protect yourself on all fronts. A good piece of advice I will also give is to make friends with everyone, because you don't know who is your friend and who is your enemy. I think one of my favorite Game of Thrones quotes were from Littlefinger: everyone is your friend and everyone is your enemy. You do not know who actually has a hatchet for you and who is actually your supporter. A lot of my support actually came from men and also non-Black women. Non-Black women actually gave me more game in my career than actually Black women. And going in, I thought that it would be Black women. And going in, I thought that that camaraderie would be there. And unfortunately, that was not my experience. Now, I've made friends with white Jewish women, Asian women, like every other woman except for my own. I'm like, what is the problem? Like, what is the problem here? But I think that keep an open mind, make friends, see where the real support is, and actually do things that accelerate your career and just protect yourself. And just know that, you know, your workplace is just one aspect of your life, and that you are easily replaceable, especially if you're in a corporate plantation. So just bring your value there, and just leave it there as well, because, you know, that's all we need to know.
All right, Jade, how about from the Black woman's perspective, working with other Black women? How can we make that better? What can we do to improve how we work with each other?
Relationship building, getting to know them. I mean, that's just been my experience, is going out of the way to be intentional, to really care about them, and to see them as your sister in the workplace. My biggest allies in the workplace have been Black women. And black men. You know, my biggest adversaries and villains in the workplace have been white women. White women have been vicious. Oh my God, don't come to work looking cute, decked out, confident, and qualified. Like, some of these white women would just ugh. So again, my experience has been different. And so I've built some of the longest standing relationships in my career with Black women, and we're friends, even though, like, we worked together 20 years ago. So I just wanted to name that. It just really depends. Now, in terms of the 48 laws of power, I do recommend it, so you can see how power dynamics do play out, Athena, and you know how power works and manipulation works, and the art of, like, getting what you want. And a lot of white men, in particular white society, they're playing by those rules. And so we put ourselves at a disadvantage when we're not familiar with the rules of engagement, especially in corporate environments. But what I lean on Mr. Neely Fuller Jr.'s work. And it just, you know, it's for so-called victims of white supremacy, or Black folks, in terms of how to handle yourself and definitely navigate the intricacies in the workplace, and just in all levels, you know, in different aspects of our lives. And that seems to work because it is designed to prevent arguments and to prevent non-constructive contact with other people, non-constructive conversations with other folks. But I think we need to be able to do both. I specifically didn't go to a HBCU because I wanted to go to the best college, university at the time, that had the program and the field of study of Black studies that I wanted to study. And I also wanted to go to a predominantly white environment because I wanted to be able to compete with white folks and beat them at their own game, and pop my collar in the process. So I guess it just really all depends. But when we see other Black folks in these environments, I don't really chalk it up to just a woman thing, but I think we need to go out of our way to support each other.
I love all of that. I'm reading the comments, I'm reading the chat, I'm all over the place. There's a comment that I was going to make mention of, but what I'll say is you actually touched on a little bit, Jade, and that is, Feet Funkerson. That's where the comment's coming from. That book sounds like it teaches you how to be manipulative, like the people you end up dealing with. And what I will say is that, and what a lot of this conversation is about, without being about, is that you have to know the rules of engagement. And when you read a book like 48 Laws of Power, what it is teaching you is how to play the game, right? It's not that it's manipulation. It's that too many people that look like us are playing chess, and the rest of the world is playing checkers, and the rest of the world is playing chess. When we show up to corporate environments, money conversations, literally anything that's happening in life, without understanding how to play it the way that the majority plays it, or the unoppressed play it, you show up and you don't know how to play. And too many of us are showing up not knowing how to play. And I always tell my son, they don't call this the game of life for no reason. It is a game. It is literally a game. And if you don't have the rules, then you're always behind the 8 ball. So when we go into corporate spaces and we're talking about PTSD, we're talking about trauma, we're talking about all these things, what we're talking about is, I don't understand how to play this game. And because I don't know how to play this game, I'm losing, I'm being attacked. But when you know how to play the game, things are a little bit less stressful because you can peep the game. I see you, Becky. Oh, I see what Karen is doing. And then you start to understand certain things. Let me get my paper trail right. Let me respond to her like this. Let me CC this person. Oh, such and such and such. Oh, or you know how to respond. If somebody tries to take credit for your work, you know how to go about, okay, show up to the meeting, let June have to answer questions, and June can't answer the questions because June didn't do the work. So guess what June has to do? June has to pull a little black girl into the room and say, hey, how do we do such and such and such? And then pulling the little black girl in the room to do such and such and such, the CEO that's sitting at the front of the table says, oh, Lene, how do you know that? Oh, because when I stayed here till 2 a.m. last night doing it, I had to do X, Y, and Z. You got to learn how to play the game, because somebody else said this in the comments. White women will show up as if they are better than you with less credentials. They don't stay as late as you. They don't work as hard as you, and they will want to take your credit. While we are there busting our ass, working twice as hard to get less. But once you know how to play the game, you can supersede all that. You can bypass it. That was those were some of my funnest moments in corporate America, putting June in her place, letting her know that this is my work. You can't even speak about my work. You can't even go into these board meetings and talk about what I gave you because I did it. So once you learn how to play the rules, it's not manipulation, it's beating them at their own game. That's all I wanted to say about that. Go ahead, Athena.
There's one thing about manipulation that I want to say. Everyone manipulates. Everything in life that is living manipulates. A baby learns that if they make a certain noise, that their mother will pay attention to them. A baby is manipulating you. Your pets manipulate you. Okay, so everyone manipulates in some way, shape, or form to get results that they want, right? So I just want to put that out there. And in regard to the 48 Laws of Power, it's a good book to read. You don't have to be this dark, manipulative force, but it's good to understand. So when people try to manipulate you, you can read the play and understand what is happening to you. So you can, like Lene said, understand the rules of engagement. But I want to put that out there, that whether or not you recognize it or not, everyone and everything is manipulating each other to get results from each other.
I like that. This is Fly Nubian Money. If you text the word Queens to 87948, you can be notified when we are live Monday through Friday at 1:00 p.m. Today, we're talking about why Black women hurt each other in the workplace. You can also find us on Spotify if you search Fly Nubian Money. We're going to end on mindset, because I think that that's super important. And I think that that's where a lot of this starts. And that is scarcity. If they have something, I'm not going to be able to get it. If they show up and show out, then I'm going to look like I don't have what it takes. If this, then that. Instead of walking in our own greatness and authenticity and being who we are, and recognizing that there's enough for everyone. I can do my job and I can see you struggling, sis, and I can help you do your job. Or I can do my job and you still don't have to talk to me and treat me like that, because there's enough room for both of us, right? What are your ideas and your thoughts on this, on scarcity when it comes to us as Black people, as Black women in the workplace, Jade?
Yes. My approach is what God has for me is for me. And when we lean into that and we trust and we have faith that we're in the right place at the right time, we have everything that we need. We are worthy. There's nothing to prove to anyone. I have nothing to prove, but just something to offer. There's no scarcity of money, recognition, shine, or anything like that. When we lean into those principles, then we're able to really show up and be present, fully present and productive in our work, and to raise our level of our vibration. I do see that a lot of this stuff is scarcity. And look at the evidence that we have in the world that reinforces that. The economy, inflation, job shortages, layoffs. We just came out of COVID. We have all sustained a level of PTSD. We're, making those adjustments, and the people and things, that we had to adjust to, and people that we probably lost during the pandemic. So scarcity this idea of not enough, not having enough toilet paper, not having enough money, not having enough resources, etc., is really, really real for a lot of folks. But in order to combat that, we just have to really lean into a growth mindset, but also an abundance mindset, saying that, like, you know what God has for me is for me. Nobody can take away my opportunities. I am a creator, a co-creator with the creator, with God Almighty, and therefore I don't need to be in competition with my sister or my brother. Right? I could team up with my brother and my sister for those who are in competition with us or in competition with me. When we lean into those principles, there's no need to be in fear of lack. We don't lack anything. So I'll leave it there for now.
I like that. What about you, Athena?
I like how Jade touched on that, because nature is abundant. And what society has created, the constructs in which we live in, creates an artificial scarcity. And what we need to do in order to advance is to have a mindset of abundance, but it's very hard to do so when you're born in these environments, and two people now who, under pressure, under racism, under oppression, reinforce the people around you, and the environment reinforce scarcity, lack, poverty, less than. And we carry those themes, we carry those traumas with us into the workplace, and it cuts us down. It pulls us back. It prevents us from moving forward in a way that is positive. And even in the example that I gave, she was a superior, I was a staff, entry level staff. This woman has 12 years of experience, about to make partner, all of this. I shouldn't even been a target for anything. But it goes to show what that kind of poverty and scarcity mindset can cause you to do, that you will cut down your own people so you can have warmth. You would, and that is why us as a community, we don't advance as much, because we don't help each other out. We are not supporting each other's businesses. We are really trying to be the best token instead of just being the best group. If we could apply that to the group economics and the group, we would be just fine.
I said I like that. There's two comments that I want to talk about. One is from Armando Walls. Actually, I'm going to start with Kim Brown's first. Kim Brown says, Black women hurt each other everywhere and look at each other with hate in their eyes. It's awful. I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm going to say that it's not all Black women. And I'm going to say that how we help that is not being one of those types of Black women. I make it a point, if I am anywhere, if I'm in the streets, if I'm in the grocery store, if I'm at the airport, if I see another Black woman and she makes eye contact with me, I smile, I say hi, I say, how you doing? If I can find something to compliment, I give a compliment. I go out of my way to be super intentional about dealing with that stereotype. I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm not even saying that it doesn't happen. And I'm not even saying that it's not a true stereotype. I am saying that it can't just be something that we talk about without actually trying to help, without actually trying to have a solution to. And a lot of that solution starts with us. And sometimes it starts with us, the people who are hurt by it, the people who've been damaged by it, the people who are on the opposite side of it. Jay, can you add anything to that?
Yes. See, when I'm looking at the comments and as we're having this conversation, I am thinking about the law of expectation. And we all know about the law of attraction, like attracts like, and your thoughts become things, and you bring those experiences that you think about and you feel, you manifest them into reality. The law of expectation says what you expect, it comes true. So if I'm walking into a room and I'm expecting, another Black woman I see to be nasty and dismissive, or just going to cut my throat, then the universe is going to reciprocate that. My experience has been so different because I don't expect when I see other Black folks, for them to, be crabs in a barrel, I expect them to be my brother and my sister and to build relationships with them. And so I think this is a real opportunity for us to really sit with ways in which we have internalized our own anti-Black racism and oppression. This is why the work that I do at highblackesteem.com, shameless plug, is so important, because we really look at ways in which we have been culturally programmed and how that racial programming has impacted us, and how we may have these certain attitudes towards other folks in our community. But when we shift our expectation and say, hey, we're actually not struggling, we're actually doing well, we are actually building, and this is what I expect to see, because I am going to represent that everywhere that I go, the people that I come into contact with have no choice but to shift those things in my favor to carry out that vision. And so moving forward and elevating the conversation and taking accountability for yes, our biases and how we show up and how these things have impacted us and we internalize them, but then also looking for ways to expect something different, to expect more from each other, and to really be what we're expecting to see.
Thank you. And then there was a comment over here. Okay. A healed perspective. The first person who bullied me at work was another Black woman, and I'm rarely bullied at work by white folks. I'm not saying they're better, but they won't hire me if they don't want me. So the way I want to answer or respond to that with your help, Athena, is when you are, and I'm using the word attacked, but really it's bullied or demeaned or not treated with respect. How should we then go and speak to that person or address that person, right? I have not had it in the workplace per se, but I have had a situation with another Black woman who's in my same space at my same level. And we would be in the same room with each other. I see her, so I know she saw me. We would walk around the room at the event. We won't say nothing. She's not gonna say nothing to me. I'm not gonna say nothing to her. And this went on for years, right? Years. And this is Arizona. It's small. It's not a lot of Black people. When you get to a certain level, it's even less. And we all kind of know each other. And so I left and went to Atlanta for a little bit. And then I came back. And when I came back, I was like, look, I'm coming for everything with my name on it in Arizona. And so I had to actually reach out to some people who I felt like there was some static with. She was one of them. I said, hey, would you like to meet me at Starbucks? I just want to have a sit down. I'm back in town and I just want to see, I would like to sit down with you. So we had to sit down. I took her to Starbucks and we sat down. And I was like, do you have a problem with me? I didn't say it like that. Let me calm down. I said, I see you all the time and I feel like you see me too. Do we have an issue? Have I offended you or something like that? We don't speak, we don't talk, like, what's up? And she was like, no, I thought you had a problem with me. I was like, no, I've respected your space because I always felt like there was something wrong. And she was like, no, she's like, I don't really know what happened. I don't really know how we got off track, but I just, felt like you wasn't feeling me. And I was like, well, I feel like you wasn't feeling me. And she was like, well, I think you're amazing. And I was like, well, I think you're amazing. And since then, we have partnered on multiple different things. She has pulled me into multiple different rooms. She has put my name in rooms and conversations that I would have never gotten into. We do a lot of the same things, but differently. And so just taking that itty bitty teeny tiny step to reach out to somebody and say, hey, like, what's going on? Because sometimes it could just be two people that are misreading each other. And you come to find out that y'all can really kick it and y'all cool. Athena, how would you or have you addressed conflict amongst you and someone else that looks like you? It could be in the workplace or it could be personally.
Oh my gosh, how can I address? Okay, I'll say this. All right, Dr. Boyce, he might hit me up. So this was at ABC conference. This was Charlotte's, right? So I was there as a guest. And I think this is when they were still doing like the speed dating and all that stuff. Now, there were a group of two ladies. One of them was from Palm Beach. And she's not really a friend, but I've seen her at the Young Black Professionals Chamber of Commerce. So she actually showed up. So we're like, oh, and we were spending time. And she had her sister. So I guess one of the speed dates, didn't go so well. She met a gentleman and things got crash and burn once he started mentioning Kevin Samuels. That's all I heard from that. Right? He mentioned Kevin Samuels, and then it was like a nosedive after that. Then I made a comment like about it that I don't think, because you know how I stay about these men. I was like, that wouldn't be I wouldn't get riled up about it. It's not that serious. Her sister, who was so nice to me, so warm, basically went and made up this story that I said something negative, which I did not say. But what I appreciate was that she came to me. I was walking up to my room. She, not the sister, the other girl, she came to me and was like, "Can I talk to you?" I was like, "Sure." She then told me that, you know, her sister told her these things that I said, and I said that wasn't true. And then she told me that, you know, they were basically talking mess about me and all this other stuff. And then she apologized, right? She didn't have to do that. I would have never known that these conversations were happening. So to your effect, Lene, I think sometimes just reaching out to the person and trying to build a bridge there, you know, is a good thing to happen, because then it can resolve things. But looking back on that situation with the sister, I realized, you know what, this girl, for whatever reason, did not like me. And it was almost like she was waiting for an opportunity to find something to justify her hate. And I'm glad that her sister was above that, because she also confessed that the relationship between her and her sister was very negative and like a toxic sister type of thing.
So basically going to the person, addressing it with them,
yes,
not leaving it hanging out there.
Yes.
Okay, good.
In the workplace, document things though. That's all for HR.
Awesome. So again, this is Fly Nubian Money. Today's conversation was why Black women hurt each other in the workplace. But we also, so not only did we talk about why, we gave some solutions. I think we gave some opportunities for healing. We talked about ways to diminish it. We talked about ways to address it in your own environment, in your own workplace. And so if you enjoyed today's conversation and you want to hear more conversations like this, you can tune in every Monday through Friday at 1:00 p.m. Jade, can you tell people how to find you and where they can locate you online?
Absolutely. I can be found at Lioness Crowned. You can also go to highblackesteem.com. That's highblackesteem.com. It's not self-esteem. We're talking about racial esteem, and racial esteem is one of the solutions that Dr. Joy DeGruy gives us in order to combat post-traumatic slavery syndrome, which is a form of PTSD, and to really raise our level of consciousness and pride that we have within our race, and to really dismiss all of these horrible stereotypes. And so over there at highblackesteem.com, we do the personal work to ensure that we are having a healthy relationship to our racial identity and using the shift in racial identity development in order to be of service in the community. So go over to highblackesteem.com. And my final thoughts is to, have us really check in with where we are playing a part in some of these toxic equations, and to take accountability and to shift the narrative. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And Athena, can you tell people where they can find you as well?
Yes, you can find me at wewealthwomen.com. If you are a woman and you want to have confidence with your finances and to create the wealth that you deserve, you can have me, Athena, CPA and women's wealth coach, help guide you through that process. So you can always find me at wewealthwomen.com, at wewealthwomen on all social media platforms, and listen to my podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, called the We Wealth Women Podcast.
Oops. Awesome. Thank you for being here as well. I did not give you guys the final number. So I'm going to close with that information. But before I get to that, I'm Dr. Lene Javette. I am the Brilliant Business Engineer. I help Black, specifically service-based entrepreneurs who package and sell their expertise to brand their brilliance, triple their revenue, and make an impact. You can catch me online at www.drlenajavette.com, or you can find me on social media at I am Dr. Lene Javette. Today, we talked about why Black women hurt each other in the workplace on Fly Nubian Money. You can go to flynubianmoney.com if you'd like to get some free resources and tools to help you with your money. You can also replay the restream on Spotify if you look for Fly Nubian Money. And you can always text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948 in order to be notified when we are live every weekday at 1 p.m. As always, we thank you for tuning in and for being here with us, for letting us come into your space and give our perspectives and show up. Continue to have a great day today and a great weekend. As always, stay Black, stay blessed, stay beautiful, and be one. We'll see you guys on Monday. Bye-bye.